Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Macmillan Children's Publishing Group Fall 2026 preview event. My name is Mary Van Aken, and I am the Executive Director of School and Library Marketing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alexandra Quill, and I am the Associate Director of School and Library Marketing.
Hi, and I'm Elise Villalobos. I'm the marketing manager of the Macmillan Children's School and Library team.
Hi, I'm Davina Tomlin, and I'm the Associate Marketing Manager on the School and Library team.
Hi, I'm Grace Tyler, and I am the School and Library Marketing Assistant.
Thanks, team. We are so excited to give you an overview of our Fall 2026 list of titles today, including picture books, chapter books, middle grade, and young adult titles from all of our imprints at Macmillan Children's Publishing Group. Those imprints include Balzer and Bray, Feiwel and Friends, Farrar, Straus Giroux books for young readers, Henry Holt books for young readers, Godwin Books, First Second, Roaring Brook Press, Neon Squid, and Odd Dot. We also have live guests joining us today: Kyle Lukoff, author of The Vicious Cycle, amongst other titles, and Ayana Gray, who will talk about her new novel, Hawk and Sparrow. A few housekeeping notes before we begin. In the chat, you will see a link to a list of the full titles we are recommending today. This link was included in the reminder email you received from Zoom 1 hour ago. You can download the title list by copying the URL on this screen into your web browser. If you have any trouble, please contact Booklist at webinars@booklistonline.com. In the digital review copy column for picture books and graphic novels, you can click through to read a digital review copy on issue. Please do not share these links as they are used for review purposes only. In the digital review column for middle grade and young adult titles, you'll find a link to request the book on NetCali, and we will jump into that system tomorrow to approve all of those requests, so don't wait. As we only have 60 minutes to present, this is not our full list of titles we publish. Please follow us on Blue Sky or subscribe to our newsletter to get even more recommendations.
And if you have a question or need technical assistance during today's presentation, please use the Q&A box. Booklist offers closed captioning on all webinars. To enable or disable captions on your screen, please look for and click the live transcript icon on the toolbar. From there, you can select show or hide subtitles from the menu that appears. If you choose to enable subtitles, you can adjust the size of the captions at any time by selecting subtitle settings. Today's event will be recorded and the recording will be shared with you after the event. Finally, we expect all participants to maintain an atmosphere of respect and fairness. Anyone who violates the standard of behavior, including engaging in any form of harassment, may, at the discretion of the organizers, be immediately removed. Okay, I'm going to kick it over to Davina.
Hi, so to kick off today's event, I am thrilled to introduce Newbery honoree, Stonewall Award winner, and National Book Award finalist, and author of The Vicious Cycle, Kyle Lukoff. Joining Kyle is editor Mark Podesta. Take it away, Mark and Kyle.
Thank you so much. Can you all see and or hear me? All right, Mark is giving me the thumbs up. He's the editor, so that. Oh, and I see everyone in the chat. Thank you so much. Hi everyone. I was invited today to talk to you about my newest picture book called The Vicious Cycle, and I promise I'm going to get to it in a minute. And Davina, Mark, Mary, everyone, I promise this is relevant. But first, I want to tell you about one of my hottest and most controversial takes about children's literature, which is that The Giving Tree is a good book. I know that one is spicy, and I could write a whole keynote speech about this, and I actually have in the past. But if you haven't already slammed your laptop shut in frustration, I will give you the very, very condensed version. I remember having The Giving Tree read to me as a young child and feeling like it was agreeing with me on something, or that it was confirming a truth that I already knew on a deep level, but one that no one had ever admitted to me, which is that you can love the people who hurt you and you can hurt the people that you love. I knew that and I felt that, but in my 4 or 5 years on this earth, no one had really told me that before until Shel Silverstein gave me the story about a tree who kept saying she was happy, even though I could tell that she was really sad. Another lesson there that you can say one thing and feel another, or that satisfaction and grief can be intertwined. So I came up for the title for this book, The Vicious Cycle, years before I was able to write it. The first idea was silly. I think I literally just was like, someone should write a book about an angry unicycle and call it The Vicious Cycle. Um, then, as has happened like a couple of times now, I like remembered that I'm a picture book author and that I didn't need to wait for someone else to write that book. I could just do it, but I couldn't do it yet. The title and that vague idea stuck around in my head for a while, but it took me a long time to figure out what the story was and how I was going to tell it. I had an almost blank document on my desktop for a long time titled The Vicious Cycle. I think it was literally just The Vicious Cycle and then nothing else. I don't even think I had a first sentence there, but then there was one night in incongruous circumstances that, like, Mark, I don't remember if you're going to ask me, but there were some incongruous circumstances for a picture book brainstorm. It just showed up in my brain all at once. I've taught a lot of classes on picture book writing for adults, and one thing I tell my students is that the best picture books give you the emotional stakes and a hint of the plot in the very first sentence. So in this story, the first sentence is, nobody rode the unicycle. And when you hear that, it's already asking you some questions. Why does nobody ride it? How does the unicycle feel about that? Is this something that's going to change? And in asking myself those questions, the whole story just unfolded for me. So for me, this book is very much in conversation with The Giving Tree, like I said, but also The Missing Piece, and The Missing Piece meets The Big O. And if I can confess this, I had originally envisioned the art as being sort of similar to Shel Silverstein's, like simple, black and white, very emotive within the confines of simple lines. But this is why I'm not a visual artist. And this is also a great reminder of why authors don't get to choose what our books look like. We don't get to pick the illustrators. We don't get to pick the illustration style. In this case, that's such a good thing because Priscilla Tay did a phenomenal just mind. I mean, look at this. You can see it, right? She did a mind-blowing job. It is one of the most beautiful and emotional picture books I've ever seen. I can't imagine it any other way. And yeah, I'm glad that it doesn't look like The Giving Tree. I mean, look at that little guy. He's so fast. Um, so if The Giving Tree is about loving people who hurt you and hurting the people that you love, this is a book about like those same things, except in this case, the person you love is yourself, and the person that you're hurting is yourself. Sometimes when people ask me what my next book is about, I tell them about it, and in like kind of a joking register, I'll say, so basically it's a picture book about trauma, or sometimes I say PTSD instead of trauma, which is funny because I can't imagine a child saying, I want a picture book about PTSD. And I've been helping people find books for, God, 25 years. Like my entire professional career has been helping people find books. And I've gotten a lot of interesting requests, but I've never specifically had an adult say that they want a children's book specifically about trauma. But I want this book to do for readers, old and young, what The Giving Tree did and still does for me. I want it to name something that you might know in your core, but have never been told directly, that sometimes you hurt yourself the most. And sometimes you might have good reason to, because other people did it to you first, or you didn't mean to, or you just got stuck, and that it's easier to stuck than it is to get out. But I also want this book to remind the reader gently that no matter what happened to you, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're stuck in the middle of, you get to make your own choices about what you do next. It can take time. You might need some help. You might not get there right away. And once you get there, you might not be able to stay there all the time or forever. But it is possible to get out of the ruts we dig ourselves into. And it's possible to break that cycle and to remain intact. That's kind of all I wanted to tell you about this book. But I think Mark has some questions for me. I got to see them ahead of time, but I've already forgotten what they are, so my answers will be unscripted.
Well, thank you so much, Kyle. That was beautiful. I think that was like such a wonderful introduction to this book that I know has brought a tear to my eye before we even had art attached to it when it was just a manuscript, which kind of brings us to that first question that I have for you, which coincides with where the beginning of the book was for you, which was just the title. But there was a lot of discussion around that title, especially internally, that we then talked about over email. And I'm wondering from your point of view if there was a particular reason you felt strongly about keeping it. For the background of, for folks, just that we were considering other titles because we were wondering about the word vicious and how readers, especially our youngest readers, would approach that word. So, Kyle, please, good way.
Yeah. And when Mark says that we were considering new titles, that was like a collective we that I was not involved in because I never get, I'm usually not so pedantic and I'm usually not so difficult about my titles. I'm usually so flexible and so easy to work with. And in this one case, I was like, no, it's the vicious cycle. I mean, I think for one, there's that phrase that so many people are familiar with. And I also think that there's the interesting question inherent in that because is the unicycle the vicious thing? Is the cycle of hurt that it gets stuck in the vicious thing? Is the unicycle really vicious after all? Because sometimes it's scared and sometimes it's sad, and only sometimes is it being mean to other people. And I just think that there's so many questions wrapped up in that in and of itself. And it also reminds me of two other children's literature ideas, one of which is that like an interesting fact about the giving tree is that the word giving never appears in the book. Like that word is not in the book except for on the first page. And that also gives you those interesting questions about what is it giving? Is it actually given or is it being taken from? Like, what does that mean? And then it also reminds me of the fight that Maurice Sendak had with Ursula Norton or Nordstrom about the end of Where the Wild Things Are. Because the end of the Where the Wild Things Are is, and it was still hot. And there was some internal fear that hot might be too scary because you could like burn your tongue. And maybe it could say that his dinner was still warm. And Maurice was incredibly insistent that the dinner was hot because the whole book is hot. This is a book about strong feelings and big emotions and things that are a little bit scary and a little bit dangerous. And I think that this book is the same. So thank you for letting me win.
I was happy to. Um, and then just going from there to the kind of next phase of the book, I think this is a fun fact for many in the room, but before this book was a unicycle and a young girl named Emily. The two main characters were actually a unicycle and a bicycle, and the story followed the two of theirs meeting. And I wonder, Kyle, what made you swap out the bicycle for a kid, and what do you think Emily brings to the story now?
I mean, I think Emily brings that sort of human warmth to it that we wouldn't have gotten if it was, another metallic wheeled object. And I think it was originally just a bicycle because I thought that made the story feel a little simpler. Like, I know that children tend to not have as big questions about anthropomorphic like non-human characters as adults do. But there is that question of like, can the unicycle talk? Like, what is this weird world where unicycles can move around by themselves? And I figured if it was a unicycle and a bicycle, it would take the whole human question out of it and it wouldn't leave those weird questions about what is this world we're living in. But I then realized that I've been spending too much time talking to adults about picture books and not enough time engaging with children about them because for children, their toys are alive. Like, of course, this unicycle is alive and has feelings. I mean, I was desperately afraid that my stuffed animals were sad when I cuddled with one of them and not the other. And it just took remembering that children don't have those, like children can make those, children don't have to suspend their disbelief. They just like live there, I think, in a lot of ways. Um, and Emily is just, I mean, look at her. She's so cute. I think she just adds that like warmth and texture that a bicycle wouldn't.
Completely agree. And I also was like, I had tons of stuffed animals and I would tuck them in every night. So
Yeah,
I
they
would
would be
also think that they would be
sad.
upset.
They
Yeah,
would
yeah.
be. They'd be
They'd
sad if
side
you
eye
didn't.
me.
Yeah.
Well, I think that all about wraps up for our time. But Kyle, thank you so much. This was so wonderful, and I hope that everyone here has been able to take away something about this like beautiful book. Yeah, hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Kyle and Mark. Might have been the first time I teared up at one of these previews. Thank you both. Okay, shall we kick off our picture book preview? Go ahead, Alex.
Great. Mary, I'm not seeing your slides.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That would be important to have. I have them all ready here. Okay, we're ready to go.
Thank you. So, kicking off our picture book list with a character who will steal your heart and your socks. Meet Murphy, an irresistibly cute and rambunctious French bulldog who has a lot of emotions and interesting ways of letting them out. One day, poor Murphy watches as his dear boy is taken away by a big yellow thing, and he doesn't come back, at least not anytime soon. And Murphy wreaks a lot of havoc while he's waiting, but he's also devastated. What if his boy never comes back? Dan Yacarino is an internationally acclaimed author, illustrator, and producer who has created many beloved children's books and as well as animating series. Inspired by Dan's own dog of the same name, this story about Murphy's emotional distress over missing his boy carries a sweet message about patience, passing time, and dealing with anxiety. With two-starred reviews already in, this story offers a hilarious and heartfelt reminder that time apart makes every second together that much sweeter. I double dog dare you not to fall in love with Murphy. Next slide, please. In Manuel's barrio, there is a house that is tiny but feels like it has no walls. It's Mama Elena's house. Whether her neighbors come to her for a delicious meal or just by lending an ear, Mama Elena is there for them. She's the guiding light of her barrio. But when she suffers a fall that leaves her bedridden, the barrio changes overnight. And when Manuel sees how sad his barrio becomes when Mama Elena's warmth is missing, he gathers his community together to give her back all of the love and support she has shown to them. A House in My Barrio is a sweet and uplifting story with a wonderful representation of a young boy embracing a caregiving role to support a beloved fixture of his community. With gentle introductions to the Spanish language, a strong message about caring for others, and vibrant art throughout, this special book is a celebration of intergenerational connection and the communities that raise us. From Sydney Taylor Book Award winner Richard Ho comes a new classic Hanukkah story in the making. When the weather begins to cool and lights start twinkling around town, Jewish children around the neighborhood light candles and turn lumps of clay into dreidels, except for one boy who molds his dreidel into a golem, a creature from Jewish mythology who, in the right circumstances, can come to life, which is just what this mischievous little golem does. While golems are meant to help, this golem's playful curiosity spreads more trouble than joy. He eats all the festive treats and somersaults around the house until he even breaks the family's menorah. As night falls, the boy and his golem must work together to repair the menorah, save Hanukkah, and bring light to the town. With melodic text and gorgeous art, this is a heartwarming and fun-filled modern Jewish fable and a joyful read aloud. Meet Choco Choco, the smallest squirrel who has big dreams of helping his family find a new home, but who finds a big acorn instead. Here's Caldecott honoree Jason Douglas Griffin to share more about Be the Acorn and, of course, more about Choco Choco.
Well, hello, librarians. My name is Jason Douglas Griffin, and I am super excited to introduce you to my first solo picture book. The title of the book is Be the Acorn, and it's about a little squirrel with big feelings. So the story starts with Choco Choco, the little squirrel, and he's standing with his family around this giant hole where his family tree used to be. And this is where the journey begins for Choco Choco. And the journey is as much external as it is internal. So through Choco Choco's journey, there are various themes, like how we manage ourselves when confronted with an overwhelm of emotions. Themes of self-reliance, but also when to trust the wisdom of others. There's lots of little nuggets in this tale, if you will. I hope you enjoy this tale as much as I enjoyed creating it. I really appreciate your time.
Husband and wife duo Jonathan Stutzman and Heather Fox really know how to crank up the humor to maximum in this tale of a practical dad who refuses to see what's right in front of him, sock monkeys. Despite his delightful children telling him repeatedly who is to blame for their missing socks, Dad insists he can find them. The deadpan text juxtaposed with the increasingly over-the-top illustrations are just masterfully executed for optimal storytime appeal. Grab this title anytime you're looking for surefire laughs, but make sure the audience knows that the silliness doesn't stop at sock monkeys. The underwear hog is coming next.
If anyone in this room needs evidence that author Kate Beaton can do anything, and I really mean anything, look no further than her stunning picture book, Rebecca, illustrated by the immensely talented artist Sydney Smith. It's impossible to describe the full impact of this book. You really just need to read it, but let me try to tell you why it's so impactful. The book is at once a very deeply personal book to Kate and also universally resonant. It's inspired by Kate's grandmother's grandfather's grandmother, a fisherman's wife who lived on a small island off the coast of Canada, who loses her husband to the sea and raises her children alone. I am not a fisherman's wife, and I never will be, but somehow this story cuts across generations, across borders, and stirs a deep well of feeling in anyone who reads it. It could be Sydney Smith's stunning art, or it could be that the stories authors feel most intimately end up resonating the most universally. Of all people, I think children are the most deeply feeling, and I know that this will be a powerful reading experience for adults to share with the young people in their lives, as a starting point for discussing bravery and courage inherited across generations. Next up, we have Freedom's Eve. On December 31st, 1862, the eve of the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, enslaved and freed people of African descent gather to watch, wait, and celebrate the eve of their freedom. A tradition called Night Watch is still celebrated by present-day descendants. This is the story of a young girl, Eve Lynn, and her grandmother preparing for their annual family watch night gathering. The little girl carries her family quilt as she prepares for watch night, but in a moment of jittery anticipation, she rips the beloved fabric made by her ancestor. With the help of her Gramsci, she stitches the quilt back together, leaving a piece of herself within its patchwork. Illustrator Keisha Morris's collage art style brings this story to life beautifully. With themes of familial love, tradition, and togetherness, Freedom's Eve celebrates the important little-known legacy and the cherished ancestors who paved the way. In a beautiful note from the author at the end of The Ones Who Came Before, Cybert Medal-winning author Kevin Millard writes that for him, the joy of writing is building worlds that ask loud questions and maybe offer a quiet answer. That's been true of all of his books, but especially this one that gently probes readers to consider who belongs and who came first in their communities. The book follows a young girl who goes on vacation to visit her grandfather to find she feels uncomfortably new in her great uncle's rural community, only to have an encounter with a bear at the end of the book that opens her mind to the vast history of inhabitants on this land. Kevin's storytelling is beautiful, accompanied by Cebu Tibi's art, and together they are a beautiful reminder to young people that while being new is challenging and can be uncomfortable, everyone around us was once new. As Kevin states so beautifully in this author's note at the end, we are never the first and certainly never the last. What matters is how we make room for others.
A curious capybara with adorably chic glasses lives with her family on the riverbanks. She lives peacefully but predictably with capybaras and grass as far as the eye can see until this curious capybara discovers a book filled with pictures of plants and animals she's never seen before. Someone needs to find them. With boundless determination, she ventures off on a quest to find this curious new wildlife. Perfect for fans of Buffalo Fluffalo, this humorous picture book about an adorable capybara with a restless, adventurous spirit also tackles the universal theme about growing up and finding your place. This book will inspire young readers to learn more about the world around them, and it contains STEM-related back matter about wildlife diversity and conservation. From a curious capybara to a crying crocodile, Clayton is a crocodile with deep feelings. Clayton is often moved to tears, happy tears, sad tears, all of the tears, and he is feeling genuine big emotions. But Clayton's deep feelings invite relentless teasing. Clayton is based on the real-life caiman, a reptile native to Central and South America, whose tears actually provide nutrients for kaleidoscopes of butterflies. As back matter explains, in exchange, caimans get their eyes cleaned out by the butterflies. So in this story, Clayton's special strengths come to light with a little help from his gentle butterfly friends who show him just how valuable his tears are and how much he's appreciated. This latest picture book from New York Times bestselling illustrator Derek Desierto features bright and inviting illustrations, adorable animals, and an evergreen story about being understood and being celebrated for one's differences. And finally, we have a compelling picture book biography of Toussaint Louverture, the Haitian hero who led his people to freedom. This is the story of the extraordinary man who rose from slavery to lead the Haitian Revolution. Toussaint was a military genius and diplomatic tactician who transformed a revolt into a revolution. Forming international alliances and rallying his community, he led the charge for liberty, achieving the first and only successful slave revolution in history and inspiring change across the world. In a stunning debut by Haitian-American artist Rocky Cotard, this book is filled with visceral and evocative scenes paired with a page-turning narrative written by recent Stonewall Honor recipient Jay Leslie. Rocky draws from his fine art background to gorgeously bring this history to life, using a bright palette and dynamic characters that complement the text's depth and impact. This vibrant and inspiring biography will introduce young readers to the life and legacy of a revolutionary who changed the course of history. The book concludes with rich back matter. And don't miss our continuing series titles and even more must-read picture books.
And I am thrilled to kick off our middle grade section. First, we've got Don't Be Scared by Sadia Faruqi. This is a story about friendship and repairing parental relationships. Next slide. 12-year-old Riz is set on being a movie director, but this doesn't sit well with his father, who thinks it's a waste of time. And ever since Riz's mother passed away, he's really had a hard time talking to his dad. Film Club presents a rare opportunity to escape the pressures at home and meet other kids who are obsessed with the supernatural and are also first generation. Plus, they all have ghost stories from each of their different cultures. When Riz learns that even his boring dad has some Pakistani ghost stories, the connection starts to mend their strained relationship until the kids attempt to make a documentary of the local haunted mansion, but their plans are threatened by the impending demo of the spooky manor. And Riz's dad is on the demo team. This book has haunting folklore from other cultures and a Scooby-Doo style mystery that will engage readers fully. Sadia is the writer of our very own Saving Sunshine, her graphic novel debut, and artist Amin brings this book to life with an enticing color style. Next slide. From the author of Marshmallow and Jordan, we have Alina Chow's Monkey King, Uproar in Heaven. This is a retelling of the classic legend, The Monkey King. Hero Sun Wukong arrives in the world having emerged from a stone egg high on a mountaintop. He's bold, restless, and certain he's destined for more. He has a magical staff that can transform at will, a flying cloud that moves faster than lightning, and a healthy disregard for authority. He's unstoppable. But when the rulers of the heavenly realm hear about his growing powers, they try to keep him out of trouble. But Wukong has no intention of sitting quietly. What follows is a wild, unpredictable chain of events that may just rattle the heavens. Chow's Uproar in Heaven glows, rich digital watercolor textures, elegant line work, and a touch of manga influence that make every page feel alive. This is for fans of Rick Riordan's mythology adventures and Jean Luen Yang's American-born Chinese.
Never has a chess match been more action-packed than in the hands of award-winning creators Steve Shankin and Tin Pham and chess grandmaster Maurice Ashley. In this edge-of-your-seat account, the historic 1997 matches between chess world champion Garry Kasparov and the computer Deep Blue couldn't have higher stakes. Tin Pham's art ratchets up the tension, transforming chess matches alternatively into a boxing ring, a battle with a constantly transforming monster, intercut with stress-filled close-ups of Kasparov facing off against a machine showing the first signs of human-like thought. On top of being such a fascinating account of these historic matches, this is essentially a really digestible look into the very beginnings of artificial intelligence, a topic none of us can escape. The book offers a snapshot of the brilliant thinkers on both sides of the table, both the world champion ultimately defeated by the machine and those early AI pioneers who created Deep Blue. Maurice, Steve, and Tin are truly a creative dream team. Maurice brings decades of experience as a chess grandmaster, including as a commentator for these historic matches. Steve brings his signature propulsive nonfiction storytelling, and Tin's artistic choices in this telling are just brilliant. We know you'll enjoy every single page.
And Mischief and Monsters by Adriana Cuevas. This is a supernatural adventure about an awkward Cuban-American boy who discovers the legendary creatures in his Texas town. It's the Goonies meets Stranger Things. Next slide. With lovable creature friends like the Chupacabra and the peanut butter loving Bear King of Marble Falls, a vibrant Texan setting, and snarky kids in a hometown mystery, it's a feel-good, laugh-out-loud middle grade as comforting as a homemade pastelito. Adriana's books have gotten the Pura Belpré honor, the Edgar Award, the second Latinx creator to ever do it, and many more accolades. This fantastical romp will really sit nicely next to her other middle grade adventures, What Fell from the Sky and The Total Eclipse of Nestor Lopez. Next slide. Small Magics by Emily Tetry. This is a graphic novel. Sarah was ready to have the best summer ever, but she's set to travel to a tiny island in the middle of nowhere, miles from any other kids, and her family is moving in the fall. And her friends are at theater camp without her. But at least the island is magical. The moment Sarah arrives, she discovers the small magics that make life there an endlessly surprising adventure. From talking animals to trees that move aside if you ask politely, the island is full of wondrous things. Sarah quickly befriends her aunt's two rescue dogs who become her enthusiastic guides as she wrestles with unfamiliar challenges and embraces new worlds. Readers will fall head over heels for the island and its inhabitants, thanks to Emily's immersive, color-drenched landscapes and knack for capturing the voices of chickens, frogs, and two totally charming dogs. Emily's Tiger vs. Nightmare earned a Geisel honor and an Eisner nomination. This book is cottagecore for kids, perfect for fans of cozy fantasy and coming-of-age stories like A Song for You and I, Luke Pearson's Hilda, and Kiki's Delivery Service. Next slide. And now we have a video message from Erin Blabely, author of Game of Pets. And it looks like the video froze for a second and we can't hear the sound. So let's run that back. Still not hearing the sound. Curious if coming off mute will help you, Mary.
Thank you, Elise. Everyone, I'm going to try this one more time. Apologies to all of you and Erin.
Hello. This is a message to my favorite people, librarians. How you doing? It's Aaron Blaby here. I'm the maniac who brought you The Bad Guys, Pick the Bug, Film the Unicorn. And I'm acutely aware that you have a mission, which is to find that one magical book that when you put it in the hands of a kid can trigger a lifelong love of reading. And I've been trying for a bunch of years to give you a little bit of ammunition to help with that mission. And I think my new series, Game of Pets, might just fit the bill. I've never had as much fun writing anything, I have to say. I love this series so much. It's a little bit older. They're illustrated novels as opposed to a graphic novel, but think of it as a, hopefully very funny action movie in a book. It is the story of how our innocent little pets, not quite so innocent, and are in fact part of an intergalactic game show and are up to no good at all. Personally, I think it's the funniest thing I've ever written. I think it's the most entertaining thing I've written, and I truly hope you guys love it as much as I do. And hopefully, it will be a new little secret weapon you can have on your shelves. And just before I go, I want to say thank you. Thank you for everything you do. I don't know what we would do without you. So all my love to all you librarians out there. You guys rock. So all right. I'll see you soon, and I really hope you enjoy Game of Pets.
Yay! Thank you to Aaron. We're so excited about Game of Pets, so I'm glad you got to watch his video. Next slide. Awesome. So we're moving on to Tree Dog by Margarita Engel. And this is an emotionally poignant novel in verse set in rural California about a girl and her adorable tree climbing dog. After moving from Cuba to Montreal to Florida to California with her biologist parents, Tiana can't wait to settle in, and climbing trees is where she finds peace. But one day near the top of an aspen tree, Tiana comes face to face with a dog, a tree climbing canine who has lost her human. And while Tiana has been looking for a peaceful respite from her complicated life, she quickly realizes that a little bit of furry chaos might just be what she needs instead. This book touches on relevant and timely themes of conservation, book banning, and immigration, and is great for fans of Kate Messner and Dave Eggers. Margarita is an award-winning master tale writer about tail waggers, and this one is very cute. Next slide. Okay, Donut Squad, take over the world. This is the first book in Neil Cameron's gloriously wacky new series. Picture this, a squad of donuts. Yes, donuts, plotting world domination. We've got Sprinkles, the charming but slightly unhinged leader, Jammy Boy, who leaves sticky chaos wherever he goes, Dadnut and Lil Timmy, who have a habit of dropping the most random facts at the most random times, and Spronky, who is, well, let's just say he's delightfully different. Their mortal enemies, the Bagel Battalion, led by the fierce commander Poppy Seed. What follows is an epic, utterly ridiculous baked goods rivalry full of slapstick humor, bright action, and just the right amount of absurdity. In the UK, Donut Squad is already a hit, and with the colorful, high-energy illustrations and a few good laughs, kids are gonna love this if they love Investigators and the Dogman series.
I am always excited to talk about any book by H.E. Edgman. This is their first foray into the fantasy genre for middle grade readers, and it is a treat. Our main character is Rowdy, and he's the young prince of Texas in an alternate version of the United States filled with magic and dragons. Rowdy is deeply frustrated when his parents won't let him get his hands on a magical tonic with the power to transform him from head to toe into a hero that he knows he can be and into a body that feels more his own. So he takes it upon himself to prove himself in Realm Sweep, a dangerous scavenger hunt held across the 50 kingdoms. Along the way, he teams up with a great group of preteens, faces off against dragons, solves ancient riddles, and proves to himself that he is, in fact, the person he's desperate to be. While this is top-notch fantasy, it's grounded enough in our world to feel so accessible to readers, with the added bonus of tiny animal companions that give it that extra adorable factor that makes you want to live in this world, mayhem or no. Next up, we have a special guest, New York Times bestselling author Allie Millington, author of Olivetti, here to present her next middle grade novel, Trunk Number 3.
Hi, I'm Allie Millington, and I'm excited for the chance to tell you about my upcoming middle grade novel, Trunk Number 3. Like my other books, Trunk Number 3 is partially told from a unique perspective. An old, stuffy trunk who is storing a secret and insists on interjecting her opinion throughout the story in the form of footnotes. This book is a love letter to libraries, as it takes place in a rare library called the Repertorium, which shelves once forgotten items in the memories they hold, a place that is abounding in empathy and curiosity. This book is also a love letter to the lost art of letter writing itself, as a hurting boy and a hope-filled girl discover the worth within themselves through each other's words. The single thread stitching this whole story together is that there is more to the seemingly ordinary, including ourselves. So I hope you feel at home with the Repertorium and its cast of quirky characters.
Thank you, Allie. Next, we have Boundless. This is the first book of its kind for young readers and offers 17 stories written by disabled best-selling authors and newcomers. Imagine the boundless experiences of disabled kids, a deaf southerner who solves local mysteries, a young diabetic plant mage encountering magical mishaps, a girl with epilepsy discovering a hidden world in her grandmother's garden. From juvenile arthritis to asthma and from wheelchair use to neurodiversity, Boundless writes disability back into the mainstream narrative of the commercial genres we love, with so many voices we love too, like edited by award-winning author Marieke Nijkamp, with contributions from authors like Natalie Lloyd, Samira Ahmed, and Anna Marie McLemore. And to round our middle grade section out, I didn't know I needed an epic world of warring squirrel clans, but when I saw the cover from Sentinels, guess what? I really needed this, and you did too. It's perfect for fans of animal-based series like Warriors. It's an action-packed first book in a series about the chosen one, in this case, a squirrel named Rum, who is destined to save the world with the help of other Sentinel squirrels. They are saving the forest from a fire that is looming that will destroy everything. This just speaks to my Watership Down loving heart, and I love cheering aloud for these tiny warriors in their epic quest, and I know your readers will too. We have so many more great middle grade picks, including continuing series from big name authors like Dan Santat, Catherine Applegate, Jennifer Choldenko, more in our science comic series, Danielle Clayton, Jean Wen Yang. Like, there's truly, please browse our title list because there is so much more for you to discover within. And we will head to young adults. Davina, you are on mute.
Ah, dang it. Uh, so now we'll move into our very exciting YA list, starting with But I Hate Him by Paige Powers. Not only do I hate being accidentally on mute, don't you hate it when an extremely handsome jock beats you at everything? Don't you hate it when, despite all of your best efforts to avoid him, he shows up at your remote academic summer camp looking all cute and ready to beat you at yet another academic showdown? Don't you just hate that? There's only one logical solution. Make him fall in love with you, and then break his heart. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Fans of Casey McQuiston and Becky Albertalli will swoon at this latest offering from the runaway best-selling author of And They Were Roommates that asks the question, how many of your favorite tropes can we fit in one novel? Rivals to lovers, gay hockey players, summer camp romance, sabotage plans going awry. It's enough to make you hate us. Unless... Next slide. Cemetery Boys holds a special place in my heart. For me, it was the first book that I had encountered which put trans characters at the center of the story and through skilled writing, forced the reader to see the main character's identity through their eyes. It of course didn't hurt that it also had a delightful romance and a paranormal twist. Finally, Aidan Thomas has returned to the world of Cemetery Boys, with a story focused on Julian and his life and relationship after coming back from the very nearly dead. Julian has begun to see strange black gashes on people. With his boyfriend Yadriel busy with new Brewhex responsibilities, Julian turns to a new and far more ruthless Brewhex for help. But how far is Julian willing to go to save his friends?
Prince Honor-winning author Lily Anderson is back to deliver another unforgettable read with her new YA thriller Demonology for Overachievers. Merritt Maldonado has done everything right, but with every right move she makes, her academic nemesis, Linus Lexington, has been right there, copying her every move, and now they're neck and neck for a coveted full-ride scholarship. Desperate to gain an edge, Merritt finds herself making a deal with the demon. Soon Merritt realizes the demon is killing off her competition, and to make matters worse, she finds a demon mark on Linus. Now, with their souls tied to the same demon, they have to work together to break the pact, stop the killings, and maybe admit that the bond they share isn't just supernatural. This YA campy paranormal/horror mashup is full of Lily's trademark humor and heart, and very real, very relatable characters. Great for fans of You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight and These Vicious Games. Debut author Dan Paruco brings you Exchange, a heartwarming YA rom-com. In a small mining town in Michigan, Enzo Rossi is so excited that his family is hosting a fellow music nerd from Tbilisi, Georgia, the country. When they get to the airport, they're greeted by Garrett Anderson, a handsome football jock from Atlanta, Georgia, the state. Apparently, something got lost in translation. Enzo dismisses Garrett as a spoiled, cocky city boy, and Garrett writes off Enzo as too struck up for his hometown. The more time Enzo and Garrett spend together, the harder it is for both boys to keep their guard up. The closer they come to finally seeing each other clearly. Exchange unpacks familiar stereotypes about small town city life in the American South, inviting readers to look beyond the surface and find common ground in uncommon places. Peruco presents a tapestry of themes that are for sure to resonate with young readers. The trials of the senior year, family expectations, college dreams, and inconvenient crushes. It's a masterclass in growing up and figuring out where you fit in, be it your hometown or the world. I am so excited to share New York Times bestselling author Tomi Adeyemi's new standalone YA dark academia thriller, The Siren. When Emery steps foot onto Dartmouth's campus, she knows she has to do. Keep her scholarship, take her meds, and pray no one ever finds out about the past she left behind. But that all changes when Emery meets Rue and the mythical band of girls Rue calls the Sirens. Each siren is as beautiful as the last, and their lives on campus are shrouded in extravagance and secret parties. Before the girls became sirens, they were outcasts, yet under Rue, their wildest dreams come true. When Rue offers Emery the chance to join them, Emery will do whatever it takes to make it in, even if it costs Emery her life. With an enemies-to-lover romance, a maddening central mystery, a deep exploration of power and privilege, and a terrifying final twist, The Siren will leave readers breathless. Perfect for fans of the Ninth House series, the Atlas series, and Hazelthorne. This is Tomi's first book since her blockbuster hit series Legacy of Orisha. And speaking of blockbusters, be on the lookout for the movie adaptation of Children of Blood and Bones coming out in January 2027. Next slide. From New York Times bestselling author Mary Lou comes the first book in her YA fantasy duet, Mortal Things. Even though Rose hates being the Raven's harbinger, a human mercenary at their god's every beck and call, she endures it all to keep her best friend alive. When a murder rocks the world of the gods, Rose sees her chance to free her friend once and for all. But first, she must prove herself to the gods and to ascend. A teeny, known for his sly wit and charm, is the last person Rose wants testing her abilities. But as the hostility evolves into intense attraction, they discover that the gods' secrets go deeper than they ever expected. As Rose and Atini fight to uncover the truth, trust each other with their hearts, they realize that everything hinges on the same question. How far would you go to save the person you love? This epic series opener is filled with cinematic world building, a captivating romance, and a devastating twist ending posed to leave readers desperate for the sequel. Make sure to check out Rebel, the graphic novel, an electrifying adaptation of the Legend series grand finale, out on September 1st.
Have you ever wished for a romance novel with the vibes of the mixed-up files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler? Sounds weird, but trust us, it works. In 1965, Miki Kawamura's grandparents were locked in overnight at the Met, and now Miki plans to retrace their steps with her best friend Auden and finally confess her feelings. But as fate would have it, it's not Auden who joins Miki on her midnight romantic tour, but Lou McSweeney, the world's most jaded cynic, and Miki's ex. This was not the plan, but maybe Lou can surprise her with a better one. In 1912, Oscarville, Georgia was a majority Black town in Forsyth County, where racist violence and riots drove away most Black residents. In 1950, what remained of the town was flooded to create Lake Lanier. Oscarville is a real place, and this is the fictional story of a paranormal path to justice for it. When white teen Sidney Cromwell moves to rural Forsyth County from Atlanta, all he wants is to fit in at his new school. But after Sidney nearly drowns in Lake Lanier, he becomes haunted by the ghosts of Oscarville residents, who call upon him to remind Forsyth of its devastating history. But the people of Forsyth County refuse to acknowledge the past. Oscarville's ghostly populace starts to lose their patience. Their rage and thirst for vengeance rises like a tidal wave. Next slide. And I am so excited to announce a new book from National Book Award finalist Josh Galarza, and let's hear from Josh about this gorgeous story.
Hi, librarians. Ball Space features two gay teen boy protagonists who are dealing with the challenges of homophobia in their own ways. Russell is trying to pray away his sexuality, while Bert is performing hypermasculinity as the youngest ever operative of a secret organization that rescues queer kids in danger. When their stories collide, these boys are going to have to examine their beliefs and their values, ultimately discovering that being who you are, not changing who you are, is how to successfully seek out the love that you deserve and live a fulfilling life. If you know my work at all, you'll know that I like to use a lot of humor to open pathways to conversations with boys that can be really challenging and even uncomfortable, but ultimately enriching and fulfilling. In this book, we're dealing with some religious trauma, but also sexual trauma and the nuanced nature of consent. And I think it's so important to have conversations like this with boys coming into their sexuality to help them become empathetic, responsible partners who do no harm. Thanks for reading.
Thanks, Josh. Join C.G. Drews as they dive into the horrors of the ocean with currents of mental health and loneliness under the surface. Jonathan Covey lives on the gloomy Isle of Calcaro. His friends will soon leave for college on the mainland, but Jonathan won't be joining them. He is lonely, he is desperate, and so he does something stupid. Jonathan pays a tithe to Scorpion Deep, an eldritch sea god who many of the other locals have dismissed as a myth. When Scorpion Deep awakens, it's obsessed with him? Despite his terror, the god provides a balm for his loneliness, but when the scales start growing down his spine and Scorpion Deep's adoration of him turns bloody, Jonathan realizes he must do something. But how do you kill a god? Next slide.
Critically acclaimed author Vanessa Lee brings you her new YA fantasy, When Shadows Burn, a lush, darkly mysterious, and romantic duology starter. Demon hunting is a job made for two, a demon caller and a demon slayer. Kiit Surin, a hotshot caller, and Song Sarnara, the top slayer in her class, run the Ink Sip Spell Agency. Their demon hunting agency encounters a demon unlike any other, one that's targeting people with connections to the mysterious Fenbridge University. As their investigations deepen, they uncover dangerous secrets hiding in the school's hallowed halls. And the most terrifying is that there may be things more dangerous than demons on university grounds. When Shadows Burns combines dark academia with a propulsive detective tale with a slow burn romance and a medical magic system as intricate as lab work, it will leave readers at the edge of their seats. Next slide. And don't miss out on our continuing series. Next slide. And more must-read YA books.
Now I'm really excited to introduce our final guests of the program, New York Times bestselling author Ayana Gray and her editor Donna Bray, SVP and co-publisher at Balzer and Bray. They'll be in conversation talking about Ayana's highly anticipated new YA novel, Hawk Sparrow.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Ayana. I'm really excited to talk about this book, this dazzling cross-genre novel. It's just incredible read. So, Ayana, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the inspiration for this book.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So nice to see you virtually. Okay, so for inspiration, really it comes down to three things for Hawk and Sparrow. And they're all things that I love. So we have this love for autumn, one of my favorite seasons. I live in a state where we get really pretty autumns here in Arkansas. A love for whimsical things. I remember watching Howl's Moving Castle, the movie, for the first time and just being in love with the whimsy of that story, among other things. And then also the Gilded Age. It's an era that is it kind of gets kind of lost, I think, in the Roaring '20s and the Civil War and these other bigger, well-known eras, but it's one of my favorites. And so the story brings together all three of those things.
So great. Yeah, I mean, speaking of whimsy, there is this really cool magic system in the book. And in the book, only the wealthy are afforded the ability to do magic. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the construction of the system and what you were trying to do with it.
Yes. So if you know about the Gilded Age, this is like, by the way, late 1800s, after the Civil War, but before World War One. The Gilded Age was this era, especially in the US, that was defined by incredible wealth. People were, you think about like the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, these tycoons who just had massive wealth. And it's this era defined by innovation and progress. And it was literally gilded because there was just so much extravagance. But it's also an era defined by, disparity, the super wealthy versus the super, super poor. And I remember thinking, as I was reading a book about the Gilded Age, what would this world have looked like with magic? I'm a fantasy author, so that's what I always think about. And so in this world, magic, just like money, is a key to power. You have to have an education and typically be a man to even become a sorcerer, to learn the language that you need to do enchantments. And so it becomes another barrier. And what's fun about this story is you have a sorcerer, so a man who has power, who is forced to rely on the exact opposite of him, a young woman who does not have magic, who does not come from wealth, and they have to work together.
I love that. That was one of my favorite things about this magic system was the connection with education, like the bringing in of language, and power. I just thought was like really masterful. So our protagonist, Vesper, is a writer. And I mean, I know you're not supposed to look too, closely at connections to the author, but I mean, it's kind of hard to miss. Do you share anything with Vesper, or are there any other inspirations for her?
Yeah, absolutely. And so this story, just in case I didn't say it before, this story follows this struggling reporter. She is trying to save her newspaper, and so she has to help a sorcerer prove his innocence in exchange for the money she needs to save this newspaper that's about to go under. So actually, a really big inspiration. I put a little bit of myself into every story I write, of course. But a really big inspiration was actually Ida B. Wells, prolific and legendary Black investigative journalist who also was around at this time. And if any of you happen to be fans of The Gilded Age, the show on HBO that's gotten really big, one of the main characters in that story is Peggy Scott, who was also inspired by Ida B. Wells. But I love this idea of these, in particularly Black women, but women in this era where women still did not have a lot of rights, kind of pushing against the mold, and refusing to go into the boxes where society tells them they have to be.
Yeah, I feel like that really comes through in the novel. I mean, this novel is so layered. I mean, it has the mystery, it has the fantasy, it has a really great romance, which, spoiler alert, you know, I think it's pretty telegraphed in the early stages of the book. But it also has this like layer of historical fiction, and even though this is not strictly historical, it is very grounded in the Gilded Age. And I got to be in a little bit of your research with you, but I wonder if you could talk about it because I think you did a lot of research for this book.
Yes, yes. The research is one of my favorite parts of getting to write, and fantasy's fun because I get to world build, but also borrow from real history. So I researched for about 2-ish years, and my research takes me everywhere: podcasts, documentaries, reading books. One of my favorite things that I got to do with this book, and Donna knows because she was with me, I flew up to New York City and we did a walking Gilded Age tour of the Upper East Side with actual historian. And one of my favorite parts of the tour, he didn't know who we were. He just thought we were tourists. And so I asked him about writers in the Gilded Age, and he got very serious. And he said, we need to take our writers seriously. Books are important, not knowing he was talking to an author and an editor. But we had a
Right.
wonderful time just seeing, even though it's been now over a century, seeing how the Gilded Age still shapes so many parts of New York City, and seeing, these skyscrapers, but then these beautiful little pieces of the architecture still there. So that was so much fun.
That was my favorite too. It was great. So what would you say in terms of like, how many things you're juggling in this novel? Were there any particular challenges that you faced in writing it? I'm just curious from a
Oh
craft
yeah.
point of view.
Oh yeah. And you saw it. This was my first time writing a truly multi-genre book. So when people are like, "What is this?" I think the quick answer is, "Oh, YA fantasy," but it's actually like three or four different genres. It's historical fantasy because it's this Gilded Age inspired story that takes place in the late 1800s, but it's also a murder mystery. There's also a bit of romance. All of these genres have expectations, and so I was going back and forth trying to make sure that I was doing justice to all of these genres that I love separately but have never tried to write all together.
Yeah, and it is like as you were saying, I mean, inspired by your research also, there's this like thread of like, sort of social justice and feminism and the role of women at this time. And there are these great examples of women sort of bucking trends in the book, which was wonderful to read. Is there anything you hope readers take away from the story, or librarians for that matter?
I've heard in various places people talk about how we're actually in a second Gilded Age right now, where we see these ultra powerful people, and then we also see like huge disparities in different groups of people. And I know what I see a lot of young people wrestling with is like a helplessness. What do I do against these billionaires, right? And I hope maybe I try not to push too much, of what I want readers to take away from any book, but I hope maybe what it gets readers thinking about is I can make a difference, even if it's a small one. And you make a difference, I think, by not just accepting the world as it's presented and saying, yep, okay, but asking questions and pushing back when you see things that are wrong or things that you think could be better. It takes engaging with people who aren't necessarily like you, who didn't grow up like you. Um, I hope maybe that's what it gets people talking about or thinking about.
That's amazing. I think that's a great place to end, actually. Thank you so much. I love talking about this book with you. It's so special and dazzling.
It would not be the same without you. And just thank you
Oh.
again to all the librarians. I am the granddaughter of two librarians, so you all are particularly special to me.
Oh, that's so fantastic. Well, thank you both, Donna and Ayana, for coming and talking about Hawk and Sparrow and getting everyone excited to read this. Again, everyone, please be requesting it and we'll approve your NetGalley requests. I'm going to end our preview by passing this over to Booklist and saying thank you all for attending. We've loved sharing our fall 2026 title list with you all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much to the MacKids team and all of our special guests. It was such a fun preview. Next slide. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones like those you see here. You can also find out about the latest webinars on our social channels. 150 years of empowering library professionals, advancing access to knowledge, and protecting the freedom to read. Since 1876, the American Library Association has embodied America's aspiration for knowledge and democracy, championing the professionals who make that promise real every day. Scan the QR code on the screen or visit ala150.org to learn how you can help us in shaping the next 150 years of libraries. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. One more huge thank you to our guests and the MacKids School and Library team. This concludes today's webinar. See you next time.